Welcome everyone. This is our Lunch and Learn webinar. We're going to be talking about exits on stake, and we're going to get started, okay? Uh, let's go to the next slide. Okay, my name is Ricardo. I'm co-founder in CPTO at Stake, and basically I look after product and technology over here. And I have with me Fahd, which looks at our core experience. Fahd, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Fahd. I take care of the core experience here at Stake. It'll be my pleasure to take you through the product later on in the webinar. Back to you, Ricardo.
Thanks, Fahad. Okay, we'll get started very quickly. We're gonna start by giving you guys, everyone, an intro. Sorry, the agenda. Let's go through the agenda. So let's revisit why we are here, what stake is, and how can you find out more about what we have been doing. We're going to be talking about different strategies to exit properties at stake. Exits are important to us. It's where you realize your appreciation on the asset. So it's really important that we define that clearly for you. And then Fahad will take us through a deep dive into exit window, which is at the moment open, as you know. And Fahd will even do a live product demo, which is going to be very useful for all of us. And we're going to follow through Q&A. You can use the Q&A section on this webinar to pop questions. We will answer them as we go along and also towards the end. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the basics is who we are, what is stake, and what do we do. So we were originated with the proposition of actually solving some of the hardest problems of real estate. Real estate is a very popular asset class, as you know. All of us know the asset class. We all know a friend or someone, a family member that owns real estate, that maybe is an investor in real estate. Is probably the most common asset class in the world, but yet has not been fully digitized, and it's really hard to access because normally it's a very expensive item, and it is very restricted, and this is where we come in. We are trying to not only make it digitally accessible via an app, but we are also making it fractional, which means that you can start at a much lower ticket size, and we are trying to actually allow you to by by solving for this kind of pillars. We are trying to get you own real estate through an app in a different market that you might not be familiar with. But with this, you can actually also diversify, because instead of, let's say, investing a lump sum into a single property, you can diversify that throughout different properties. At the moment, we position ourselves as leaders in the market in this space. And as you know, in real estate, liquidity is one of the key problems, because imagine if you were to invest in a single property, liquidating that property also has costs, and it's a hassle in a way, and it's not easy. It's a longer cycle to liquidate, and with some of the strategies we are talking here today, you can liquidate in chunks, you can liquidate in fixed periods of times, which will make much easier for you to realize if you need those returns. If you go to the next slide. Okay, great. So how do we do, what are the key characteristics, and why do we have rebuild stake? We are empowering everyone to build and own, everyone to own and build wealth through real estate, which means that you can today, using our app, buy a piece of a property from 500 dirhams, which is $136. We do it very easily through an online process, hassle-free. This allows you to select from an array of curated properties that we have on the platform, and we try to make our experience as transparent as we can by having access to a portfolio. You have access to all the documents, and throughout the life cycle of that property, we inform you of what's going on. For example, when do you receive rent, when the property appreciates, and ultimately, to close that cycle, eventually you, as an investor, you will sell that stake on the property, and you will realize a return. throughout the life cycle of the property. We have different models. So we have mainly a primary model where the property is rented out, which means that you will receive rent every single month throughout when the property is rented out. And then you can either reinvest those funds or, of course, withdraw. And we also have other models now, which pertains more with taking an opportunity of, let's say, a rundown or a property that has potential to renovate that property, then flip it for a return. But we're going to be mainly here discussing on properties that don't have that strategy, properties that are rented out long term, and you understand well where the exit cycle sits within that holding. If you go to the next slide, please. Okay, so up to date, we are leaders in our market. We co-founded this business for we are 3 or 4 close to 4 years old now. We have funded over 400 properties, both letted in short and long term. You can see all those properties in our app on the funded tab, and some of these properties have now reached a maturity state where investors are realizing a return. Out of them, we already exited 15 of them, and normally our product is buy and hold for 5 years. That's I guess our ideal cycle of investing. Again, investing in property is not a short-term cycle, it's a more long-term cycle because we need to wait for the property to appreciate over time. But when we exited these 15 properties, we see an average term of holding about 2.5 years with some, let's call it between quotes, decent returns. So definitely validating what we are doing here and why real estate is a great asset class to invest if you want to build wealth over a longer period of time. So yeah, those are our proof points. If you go to the next slide, please. Okay, great. So how do we do this? We focus on prime opportunities. We have been expanding into different areas across Dubai. We are also looking into expanding to other cities. Stake itself, if you don't know, we also offer properties now in Saudi Arabia. We have 2 properties at the moment in Riyadh. With a different structure, but again, nevertheless, it's important to position us as we are not only focused in Dubai, but within Dubai, which is our main, let's say, city where we operate, we see a great opportunity. We curate properties across 20 different areas. They are all really nice curated properties from our real estate team that are experts with 20 more years of experience in this market, and we want to offer those opportunities to you directly through the app, and you can, as you know, invest very easily. If we go to the next slide, please. Let's talk now then about what are our options to exit properties at stake. So what is the problem? What is the problem looks like today, and what are we trying to face? So what is liquidity? Liquidity is the ability for us to liquidate the asset class. So if you have a property, our ability, how easy or how hard it is to liquidate that asset class. Normally physical assets, you have a physical asset, let's say you have gold or you have jewelry. It's not quick and easy to convert that into cash. You need to go to some place, you need to find a buyer, and then you need to liquidate that. Real estate is no different. So it can be a very time-consuming process involving different stakeholders, maybe brokers, maybe sellers, people viewing the property. There's a lack of transparency on the pricing, perhaps, because you will try to put the property to sell at a certain price and the market is telling you another price. So this is all a big problem, right? And it's not easy because it involves paperwork, it involves probably intermediaries transferring the property itself. So how are we solving that at stake? We see the exit in two main moments. One is when the investment matures, and for us, the investment matures when it normally reaches a 30% plus appreciation. As you know, when you might not know this, but when assets achieve that type of appreciation, we normally put the property on the market and we submit it to a vote. So the investors involved that have, let's say, are co-owners of that property will vote and will decide on the future if they want to sell or not. We will present that through the app, and you will vote as a stakeholders on that property. And there's another mechanic that we have, which is in case of you have, let's say, you want to liquidate early because you perhaps have an emergency. That's more like how we see it, or we need those funds. We have an opportunity to sell it on a market that we created within the app. And within that market, we are, of course, constrained by supply and demand. We see some liquidity ratio. Typically, 50% of our sellers sell at least one of their shares if they were to sell. And we see this who is selling the opportunity to also discount those stakes to make it more attractive. Fahad will show you that. I think the demo includes selling at a discount. Or we can, of course, sell at the of the current value, and that will, let's say, become less attractive for a buyer. But yeah, the idea behind the exit window is that you have windows where you can try to liquidate your assets, but we don't see that as the main vehicle to liquidate the asset. The main vehicle to liquidate the asset is wait for the asset to mature. In the meantime, accumulate those dividends that you have been receiving and then see a bigger outcome at the end. That is the way you're going to maximize your investment. And again, we are here to, in a way, educate everyone that is investing in real estate that we cannot expect to buy a property in 1 month and then sell it 3 months down the line. That will not realize you any profits because you would not have time to see the appreciation on that property. So now let's talk a bit about the buyer. For the buyer, just very quickly, for the buyer, they can browse different opportunities that we have on the market. They can understand all the different arrays of opportunities we have. We have loads of, I think, over 150 properties that can be listed in the exit window. So this will give a great array of choice and also discount that can, for an interested buyer and a serious investor, they can actually buy an asset at a discount, which means that their appreciation from the day zero deal, you immediately see appreciation compared to the current valuation of the property. So just as a reminder, all our secondary listings are valued by an independent third party. We are not getting involved. We are just here to facilitate the transaction. We run through a third party evaluator before the exit window starts, and we publish those valuations into the app, and you can see that in a nice graph on the property details page. If you go to the next slide quickly before I hand over to Fahad. And again, just to, I guess, summarize what I've been saying. So there's basically two main exit mechanics. Again, on the left-hand side, it's our preferred one. Our primary goal is to, of course, make you understand that real estate has a longer life cycle span in terms of exit. So any early liquidation will hurt your returns. It's not what you want to do. So our advice is to keep the standard 5-year holding period. What we have observed is because of the maturity of the Dubai market, we have been able to exit properties, full exits, in an average time of 2.5 years. We can, of course, not guarantee that, but if the market conditions allow, we will realize an early exit for you. We have a track record. We have completed 15 property exits, and I can personally tell you, I see those exits accelerating. I think last month we had 2 to 3 exits, and we are now observing 2 to 3 exits every month. So this number will accelerate. And when we do those types of exits, when you see a 30% plus return on investment for you, so it does make sense for you, an investor, to exit and then reposition your capital into maybe different opportunities within stake, of course. The exit window is what we are experiencing at the moment. This was, just to let you know, in terms of product thinking, this was introduced very early on in our product. It was a much needed capability for our product. At the moment, we only open 2 weeks at a time and only twice a year. And the reason for that is because it's a very heavy intensive product, because we need to change the shareholdings on the SPV level on the company that drops the property. So it's a really intense operational process for us. And we see it as a reasonable time every 6 months to exit because, again, we are talking about a long-term asset. It's like a secondary marketplace, so we are transacting with another person. It's a peer-to-peer. So I try to sell, maybe Fahd tries to buy, and we operate this market and we match buyers and sellers. And again, the reason why it's only this is because it is operational demanding. And in terms of eligibility, and again, to complete the picture, we see properties to be eligible to sell only after a 1 year lock-in. Again, this is also because we don't see a lot of returns before the 1 year holding. We normally see better and more returns that make more sense to investors after 1 year. As I told you, already have that 2.5 years average that we are observing. But the exit, I think, in a nutshell, can span after 1 year lock-in, 1 year holding, all the way to 5 years. But at 5 years, you will have an option to full exit if you wish. Our objective is to full exit properties. This is our core business. So we want to see you realizing those good returns. I finished my section here. I'll come back at the end to answer questions. I'll hand over now to Fahd to go through the details of the exit window. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ricardo. Hi, everybody. Just a quick refresher. I am Fahd, the Senior Product Manager here at Stake. I'm going to take you through a little bit more on the exit window. And then after that, I'll take you through a nice live demo. So as a refresh for our brand new users, in case anyone is not aware, let me go through a few things. So our exit window, why do we have it? To build on what Ricardo said, it's really to build flexibility and liquidity to anybody that invests in stake around the world. So what does that mean? That means that twice a year or 2 weeks at a time, you will be given the option to sell your shares if you so wish. Of course, there is the 1 year minimum Ricardo talked about because we want your shares to appreciate at a minimum before you're allowed to sell. But we do have these 2 windows where you can choose to sell. So for buyers, as I said, you must have at least one fully funded investment before you're allowed to transact in the exit window. And for sellers, they have to have owned that property for at least a year. So before we move on, I just want to stress that we really do have the exit window as an exit window. It's an opportunity for you to exit should you so need. We recommend, in order to maximize your returns, that you stay the whole course, the whole 5 years, so that maximizes your appreciation, right, and the rent that you receive throughout. And by the way, we, on average, tend to exit earlier than 5 years. On average, around 2.5, 3 years. So we have a pretty good track record. So moving on, just to give a quick picture on the last exit window that we had in November 2024. It went really well, truly exceeded our expectations. And what we saw from that window was that there was real demand for transacting and buying and listing shares. So just to give a quick sneak peek, over about 100 eligible properties that featured in the last exit window. And there were about 7,000 listings that were active. So there was a transaction volume of more than 8 million dirhams. That means 8 million dirhams exchanged hands. There were more than 8,000 transactions that comprised those 8.3 million dirhams. And seller liquidity was pretty high at 36%. What does that mean? It means for every 100 people that list shares to be sold, about 36% of them end up actually selling, which is pretty good. And that's actually increasing in this window. Um, we also saw more active buyer participation in the November window. So there were about 2,400 buyers that were participating, and the window saw one of the highest turnouts to date. Of course, this window that's currently on right now is just halfway, and we're already doing better. Okay, so one more point is that our first exit window, all the way back in May 2023, uh, had just about um, half of this volume, so around 4 million dirhams or so, or 2 million, across just 1,500 transactions. So you can see the trajectory of where we were and where we are now. We went from around 2 million dirhams in volume to now around in the last window 8 million, and from 1,500 transactions to about 8,000. So all in all, very popular feature that we have, and we invite you to, if you haven't already, visit the app to check it out. Okay, so um, in less than 7 days, and this is the current window that's live right now. In the past 7 days, we've actually recorded 8.4 million dirhams in transaction. And if you remember what I just said in the last window, that was the volume that we recorded in the entire 2 weeks. So already halfway through, we've already hit the last exit window's full transaction volume, which is really cool. We've had more than 1,100 successful sellers sell what they want to sell, and we've had almost double that number of buyers in this window, and that's over 160 plus eligible properties. And if you compare that to the last window, which is about 110, it's really cool. All the numbers are going up. Okay, so in the exit window, both buyers and sellers, so whether you want to buy shares or whether you want to sell your shares, you both have reasons to benefit. So I'm going to go through them slowly, one first as a buyer and then as a seller. So as a buyer, if you go into the exit window, you can buy shares that are listed at a discount. So some shares won't be discounted and some shares will. If you can snap yourself up shares that are discounted, you will be ahead of the game, because obviously, just like stocks in the stock market, if you're given a chance to buy stocks at a discount, you've already made a gain. The second thing is you can buy shares in properties that you already own to increase the amount of ownership that you have in that property and to lower your average cost in that property. So say you bought shares earlier at the time of listing, and now somebody else is selling their shares in that property at a discount. You can reduce your basis cost, your average cost, and therefore boost your returns. And finally, you have twice a year the opportunity to invest in properties that have already been funded. So things that you already missed out on completely. Now you have the opportunity to buy all those shares that are being listed by other sellers, and you can gain access to whatever you missed in the past. That's very exciting. Okay, as a seller in the exit window, first and foremost, you have the chance to realize your capital appreciation. That means that if you've owned the property over some number of months or years, if you so choose, you can decide to exit at that point and realize whatever profit exists at that point. Of course, we recommend holding because that will maximize your returns, but you do have the chance, you do have the opportunity. Second, you can sell to free up funds when you need it. Whenever you really do need your funds, this is the chance to get out and get cash for your investment. And third of all, flexibility is yours. You can choose to list your shares for sale at a discount or without a discount, and you can choose the discount. Goes from 0% to 20%. And as you can imagine, the greater the discount that you apply to your shares, the more likely they are to be snapped up really quick. Okay, so before I go into the live demo, I'm just going to show you or tell you about two special features that we see our users value a lot. Okay, you can filter listings. So in the exit window, where you're looking at all the listed shares available for sale, um, there's a filtering feature where you can set all your criteria that you're looking for so that you find the listings that you're looking for. For example, I want properties in Dubai Marina that have a projected net yield more than 4%. You can set that filter and you can see all those properties. No need to just keep scrolling and trying to find what you're looking for. There is a shortcut. At the same time, in the same place where I'll show you in the live demo, you can also set up live alerts. So these alerts will notify you um, through a push notification on your phone and email that there are shares or listings that match your criteria that you set, that you ask to be reminded of or to be notified of, so that you don't miss your chance. Of course, we recommend just keeping your eyes open in the actual exit window so that nobody else snaps them up. But you do have both of those functionalities. Okay, so it's time for the live product demo. Let me just change my screen to the phone and I'll show you how it looks. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my phone that I'm presenting. Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. In case I'm not visible, just let me know, or Ricardo or Haya.
No,
Okay,
I can
All
see.
good.
Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks, Fahd.
perfect. So I'm going to do a couple of things, guys. I'm going to show you how easy it is to list your shares for sale. Then I'm going to show you how easy it is to buy shares. And I'm going to show you those features that I just talked about, the filters and the alerts. So let's get going. So this is the product listings page, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. You can scroll and see all the properties available for sale. To enter the exit window, I am gonna go to my portfolio because I want to sell some shares. I want to list some shares for sale. So I'm gonna go to my portfolio over here at the bottom, and this is my portfolio. I'm just gonna scroll down to my stakes. I'm gonna click view all. Okay, view all of my stakes. I have 10 of them. Just gonna shop around for something that I want to sell. I think I'm gonna sell some shares in this property that I own 6,000 dirhams in. Okay, I'm gonna click right here. Okay, so just a quick note, you can see easily here at the bottom that there's an icon saying that this property is eligible for sale. So if he has that badge, that means you can list its shares. So I'm going to go inside. Okay, these are my stats so far. I'm going to go down at the bottom and sell. So I have about, a bit more than 5,000 available shares that I can list. I'm going to press sell. I'm going to press continue. So I want to sell 5,000 of my 5,800 shares. So it tells me here, okay, if I sell these, I'll have 867 remaining. I can choose what discount I want to sell at. Let's say I want to sell it at a 10% discount because, it's very attractive for buyers and I'll be able to sell pretty quickly. And I'm going to scroll down. Okay. I'm going to see my estimated return on investment, which is really high. That's because I've actually held this property for a very long time. And then I can see at the bottom that if they sell, once I put it in the marketplace, if a buyer buys my shares, I'll get 4,400 dirhams roughly. So I'm going to confirm the listing. Yes, I agree with the terms and conditions. All right, so my listing is now live. I'm just going to click on view listing. Here it is. Okay, this is the listing that I just listed for sale. Obviously, none of it has sold since I just put it up. And yeah, that's it. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna log in with a different user. I'm gonna find these shares. I'm gonna buy them. So I'm just gonna go back. Okay, go back again. I'm gonna log out. I'm gonna go down here, and I'm going to log out. Yes. I'm gonna log in with a different user. Give me a moment. Obviously, here you just put your own actual credentials. But for the sake of the demo, I'm going to show you, I'm going to sign in with another user. So let's go to the exit window. View secondary listings right here on the main page. Okay, so here I can see all the shares that are available for sale, right? Other sellers have listed their shares right here. I'm going to scroll down and see. I could buy anything, any one of these shares. I'm going to look for the one that I just listed. Actually, this is a good chance to show you one of the features, and it'll be faster. So I'm going to filter since I listed it at 10%. I'm going to say that I want one moment. Yes, okay. So I'm going to order the listings from high to low discount through this button over here. I'm going to scroll down to find the property that I just listed. Okay, it might actually take a while since it's all the way down. So I'm just gonna buy shares in this property over here, since it's also available at a discount. The downtown Dubai, 29 Boulevard, 2-bedroom. Okay, I can see here that there are a bunch of listings available. Somebody's selling at no discount, somebody else is selling at a 5% discount, and somebody else is selling at a 10% discount. I'm going to go ahead and buy these shares listed at a 10% discount, okay? And then buy shares. How many? I'm going to buy 1,000 of these shares, okay? And since it's at a discount, you can see that it's not 1,000 dirhams, it's less than that. I'm going to review my order. Yes, I agree. Okay, buying 1,000 shares at a 10% discount. I'm going to use my wallet, place order. And there you go. Bob's your uncle. I now own those shares and I can find them in my portfolio. Just before I end the demo, I want to show you the thing that I promised earlier, which is the filter capability. So let's go back to the exit window. That's over here. So you can filter. Give it a moment. Okay, so you can filter however you like. You can filter for properties that have, above some percentage yearly investment return. Let's say I want, projected net yield more than 3%, and I want things in properties in the IFT. So I'm going to apply this. It will show me the properties that meet those criteria. And there you go. So guys, that's it for the live product demo. I'm gonna stop sharing and we're gonna jump into Q&A with the team.
Yeah, thanks, Fahad. I've actually been answering some of the questions, so maybe I can just touch base here to maybe shed some more color into those questions, and then I'll wait for more intervenients to ask more questions. So just to be clear, one thing that I want to make clear is the exit window operates in our UAE operation, which is our fractional model for properties. Okay. We do not have an exit window yet for our Saudi Arabia operation, which we are early in our operation over there. We are fundraising for our second fund, so it's early days in that operation, but we do see perhaps us exploring that path. But again, for the time being, when we are talking about exit window, we are just talking about our UAE operation. Question here, just about eligibility. Currently our fix and flip offers are excluded from the exit window. I think for obvious reasons, because if you are buying into a fix and flip, you have a very deterministic exit period, and we want to meet that exit period. So it does not make sense for us to in between that period, which is typically short, 12 to 18 months, we all of a sudden we are trying to exit those shares. For us, that does not make sense. You would need to wait until that date will come, and we will realize, between quotes, an early exit in comparison to the 5-year buy and hold. In terms of frequency of the exit window, I do appreciate the let's say the comments that we should do it more frequently, but like I told you, before, it is a huge burden for us operationally. It's still a very non-digital process offline, and we are trying to make it digital for you. So for us, it has some costs and implication that we also don't want you to pay. So, for example, every time we revalue the properties, someone needs to pay for those valuations. For example, if we do it more often, maybe you need to do more valuations, which increases the cost for you and basically minimizes your returns. We do think still the 6 months is a good term for us to be revisiting the exit options. And yeah, that's all I can say. All the buyers and sellers are coming on the first come first serve basis, which means that if, for example, some Fahad lists here a share at 10% discount, how can I make it fair between two buyers to buy? The first buyer that basically buys the shares will get the shares. Basically, it's the most fair way to distribute or guarantee accessibility across buyers. It's that, in the same way that if you're buying a ticket for a concert, it's on the first come first serve basis. Just maybe one more, and then I will look into, maybe Fahad, you can take the ones that are open. I had one more. The entry fees and costs. So, for simplicity, every time you buy a stake, we include all the costs into that purchase period. What will happen is those costs are then amortized over time. So, as a model, as a principle, it's like when you buy a share, you basically pay some costs, but over time, because that share will appreciate over time, we're gonna offset those costs, and then in the end, you're gonna realize return. This is why the appreciation of the property is different than your returns. Does that make sense? Because if you incur some costs, we are not passing all that appreciation to you. You are incurring some costs, not only from entering, paying, for example, things like the LD fees, Dubai Land Department fees. But the model is solid because over time we expect let's say the assets to offset the costs that you incurred, which also happens in real life. If you buy a property in real life, like a full property, you'll have the same type of dynamic. Fahad, maybe we can answer some of the open questions.
Yes, sure. So I can start with one that was asked by Flora, who asked if we're planning on exiting any more properties soon outside the exit window. The answer is a very definitive yes. Um, there are a lot more on the way, and there are going to be more and more. So the rate is increasing since a lot of the properties that we have are reaching their maturity. Um, and that'll keep on going on. So yes, we do have more uh, full exit on the way outside of the exit window. Um, let me have a look at the other questions we have. Um, so Anonymous is asking, how do you source the investment opportunities? Basically, Mr. Anonymous, we have a full team dedicated to go out and source the best properties currently available in the markets that we operate in, and that's mainly Dubai. They go through all the difficulties that a typical that you would don't need to anymore. So we have connections with brokers, we have connections with developers, we have connections with property owners and sellers. So we have a healthy pipeline of properties, and they have to tick all of our boxes before they're listed on the stake. So they have to be good enough, essentially, before they're listed. Let me have a look at what else is there. Um, Azam is asking, will the exit option be available, or will the exit option be available in Saudi Arabia? So Azam, in Saudi Arabia, we have a different model. It's not a property per se. It is a fund. So if you're familiar with funds, it's the same way here, except it's a real estate fund. So um, there are currently no plans to
No.
have exit windows for those funds in Saudi Arabia, given their structure. So not in the near term future, Azam.
Yeah, I have answered. We're gonna look into that. I have answered actually that on the we're gonna be looking to exit window, but it's early in our operation, so we won't be considering for now. I can just maybe answer one Fahad here that it's about also an anonymous entity. Um, it's about the breakdown of all the fees. So when you are trying to buy a share, you're gonna have a section called financials, and there you can also see the investment costs. So we've broken down the costs into three components. One is of course the valuation of the property. Other is what we call amortized costs, and other is called transaction costs. So all of this represents the total costs of the property, and then of course we're gonna be able to calculate the current share price based on that valuation and your costs, which makes clear how the current share price is calculated. So when you see, for example, 1.3 in terms of share price, you know exactly how that was calculated. So that's how we can break down the calculation. You can also see more details about the financials per share price. So if you find a listing that has multiple share prices, typically that is driven by different discount levels being provided, you can see the difference between annualized ROI and also net yield, and you can make the choice that better suits you. Typically, we normally observe people want to buy at a cheaper price so they can realize a better return. I think that's obvious there, but yeah, that's the kind of the breadth and the depth of the market.
Cool. Thank you, Ricardo. I have a couple here that I can answer very quickly. Khalud is asking that what does it mean when it says 6 days left? Basically, Khalud, it just means that there are 6 days left in the exit window that's currently open. So after 6 days, so 6 days from now, it's going to close. So like I mentioned earlier, there are two exit windows per year. Each one opens for 2 weeks. So when you see X days left, that means there are that many days left until it closes, up until the next one later in the year. And I have another question from Ammar Anwar asking, is it better to wait for the final exit if I don't need liquidity? Or that's a resounding yes, 100%. for obvious reasons. If you give more time to any investment, not just real estate, stocks, anything, more time to appreciate, then you'll logically make a greater return. And for real estate, appreciation goes up and down, but over the long term, history says that it just goes up. So it is better to wait for the final exit. We do want what's best for our investors. Looking at other questions over here.
Yeah, maybe I can take one. Is there any fees to withdraw funds back to your bank account? No, there's no fees. But for disclosure, all your funds are held in dirhams, in UAE dirhams. So depending on if your account is UAE denominated, typically you see no fees. You just literally the exact amount you receive the exact amount in your bank account. If your bank currency is not in dirhams, you might see some FX conversion, but typically it's minimal, and we're trying to minimize that as much as we can.
I'd like to answer a question by Petros. Petros is asking if there's anywhere where he can see training videos that show the operation of the platform, for instance, buying and selling shares. I just showed how to buy and sell, but if you missed that, there will be a video recording of this, I believe. But aside from that, there is the Stake Academy on the application. And I really, really do invite you to open the app and try it out yourself. It's very easy. Our user experience and user interface are made to be as easy to use as possible. If you have any questions, just contact us and we'll be able to help. But hopefully it's very, very straightforward.
Okay, I have one that is very important. That is if I'm a buyer, when I will receive rental income. So typically, I'm going to tell you the typical periods, but again, we are trying to make used to be 2 months. So imagine if you're buying in November, or for example, now May, you'd receive your first rental income in July. But we are trying to make this as fast as you can. So you typically would receive rent within the next month. Again, this is what we are trying to aim for, but don't forget there's a lot of back and forth with changing the registrar and transferring assets. So technically, the transfer of assets occurs within normally 30 days, because now we have optimized our processes. But in a typical case, this question was asked. I was looking. Oh, it disappeared. In a typical case, you're gonna get your first dividend within, in this case, June, at the end of June, last working day of June. Okay. If that is not occurred, it will be July for sure, but typically June will be the answer. Maybe Akima here, thanks for the webinar. I'm interested in Saudi Arabia. Where do I contact you? Okay, so you can contact us via the app. There's a form you can fill in for us to have a chat. If you need support by any means, you can also, there's a live chat on the app. You can raise it to a customer support team, and if we can get a sales representative to call you and to explain the proposition of Saudi Arabia, if that's needed.
I can take a question from Anonymous again. How widespread across the world are your fractional investors, and what is the typical average investment size by a fractional investor per property? So I love the question. The our investors are actually all over the world. We have a good concentration in the Middle East because we're obviously operating mostly in the Middle East, but they do come from all around the world. We have, I can't remember the number, but plenty of countries, maybe a triple-digit countries, 100 or so countries, many, many countries. So we do have investments from all over the globe.
Yeah, we
As
have
for
over 196 nationalities. It's close to 200 nationalities in the app. So
yeah, there you go. And for the average investment, if memory serves me right, it's roughly 3,000 dirhams. That's the average. Of course, there's a whole distribution, there's a whole range. You can invest 500, you can invest, you know, 100,000, but the average is 3K.
Okay. What else do we have to answer?
I'm having a look.
Okay, great. The breakdown of the fees already mentioned, so hope you can find it in the app. Um, okay, what happens in the future if stake gets closed due to any reason? Although I wish that never happens. Okay, great. This is a great question as well. This is why we run different SPVs that are totally segregated. So we are the operator of the SPVs, the administrators, but we do not own the SPVs. We have no, let's say, skin in the game here. Our objective is to facilitate the transaction. Of course, we realize fees by facilitating the transaction because we need to have a business model. But we are trying to we our corporate funds, let's say, and money operation is totally segregated from the ownership of the asset. So in case this occurs, you still remain owner of the SPV, and if that was to come to fruition, staking closing, we would need to appoint a different administrator, maybe a property manager of sorts, that will then take over the operation and distribute those dividends and returns back to you anyway. So it would just be someone else operating the SPV, not us as a digital platform. So that risk is very well mitigated, and as a reminder, this is why we are regulated, and this is why there's all these protections to protect investors.
I have a question from Anonymous again, asking, knowing the spike in Dubai real estate market, particularly rentals, I didn't see any increases in rental returns, around 3% only. So Anonymous, just to answer your question, um, we have a whole team, that same team that I mentioned earlier, that takes care of making sure our properties are tenanted, have tenants inside them living there, paying rent, and trying to maximize also the rental contract that they pay. Um, so there is an effort going in there to maximize how much rent is paid by those tenants and therefore your returns. But those tenants do have contracts in place that say that can be renewed every year or every 2 years. So it takes time for the increases in rent to show because there are contracts in place and they have to end so that the next one can be negotiated.
Okay, great. Okay, so maybe one of the last questions, because we are getting to the end. Oh, there's more. Okay. What's the structure? Am I audible? Yes, I am. What's the structure used in Saudi Arabia? From which authority and regulatory entities you need approval from? Okay, so we are regulated by the CMA, okay, which is the regulator in Saudi Arabia. And the structure we operate is a fund distribution model where we intermediate or disintermediate perhaps the fund manager and you as an investor. So we list curated funds together with fund managers, and we allow you to own a piece of the action in Saudi Arabia. These funds are diversified. Some of them are development funds, some of them are income generating funds. We also have fixed and lease funds, and yeah, all of that action is happening in Saudi Arabia, where the return profile is a bit different. But yeah, for those that are smart investors, you should look at it in terms of diversifying your investments in real estate. Off-plan investments are great. So and again, from Anonymous. But we are not allowed at the moment due to our UAE regulation. So this is a possibility in the future, perhaps, as we seek more different types of regulations. But at the moment, that's not allowed to the regulatory constraints we operate in. If I hope that answers the question.
Um,
Okay. Uh, I think we are
Mohammed,
getting
you
to the,
asked a question that
yeah.
Ricardo actually already answered, so you might have missed his answer. Um, you can give that again, Ricardo, if you like, or I can cover it. Mohammed is asking about what happens if we fail to fund,
Yeah.
although he
I mean,
wishes
you
it
can
never
just
happens.
summarize. You can summarize it.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
sure. So what Ricardo said earlier is that you're fully protected essentially as an investor. If you invest in a property that fails to fund for any reason, and by the way, we have not had that so far, but if it does, then um, how we operate is we have special purpose vehicles. This is a legal structure that says you are the owner, not state. Um, and those funds are redistributed back if it fails to fully fund. I hope that answers it, Mohammed. If you want any clarification, just ask again.
Okay, so I will I think we can get to a closure here. I would like to first of all thanks everyone that attended, everyone that asked the questions, and also the Haya and Fahad that helped here to present and organize this webinar for you guys. I wanted to just drop here our contact details so you can reach us in contact@getstake.com. You can also reach us through the app. If you go to your profile section and to the help part, to the help section, you can reach out there. If you have any questions at any point in time, we have a team of specialists ready to answer your questions. So you don't need to, wait our questions to be answered live on a webinar. You can always ask elsewhere. We run these webinars recurring about different topics. This one was about exit window. I hope we covered most of the ground here in clarifying how it works. But again, we do have also video content on the app you can tap into and watch. And again, we also have a help center with questions and answers already. I think if you are curious, check out our help center, which also accessible through the app. But yeah, that's all for us for now. Thanks everyone. Thanks Fahad. Thanks Haya. And I think we see you until the next time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Goodbye.